Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of The Fellas. As always, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date on all things The Fellas. And we come to you live at 7 p.m. Eastern every race weekend if you want to join us and participate. Again, we're joined by our friend Anthony this week. How you doing, Anthony?
Man, I'm doing awesome.
Great.
Well, kind of awesome after this weekend race. I'll be okay.
So we're going to jump right into it. I mean, going back to the sprint race and the qualify, it was Oscar's weekend. It seemed Oscar was on fire. He was back, like Oscar of old. Glad to see him. And then we'll say it. And then, and we'll just throw it out there from the beginning. McLaren fails Oscar, so I'm going to throw it out to you, Anthony. What are your thoughts on what happened?
Honestly, man, so I started getting disgusted at the beginning of the weekend when I saw Lewis's comments. He just seemed so down. I can't go back and find the comments he made to a reporter may have been, but you could just feel the, depression, like, woe is me in his words. I was like, oh my God, man, do I even want to watch this race? And I don't know if you guys, going back to what we said last week on the what's going on with Lewis and what they're doing to him. I don't know if you guys saw Helmut Marko's statement about Lewis. Did you guys see it?
No.
So Marko said exactly what we were saying last week. I'm going to give you just a little snippet. Marko said, what they are doing to him is an absolute scandal and shame for Formula. They criticize a legendary driver who is achieving unbelievable results with a car that no longer exists, who takes risks at every corner and never gives up. You know what? For me, Lewis Hamilton right now is the purest and most valuable talent that has come to Ferrari racing in decades. Those who understand it, know. He will be the best legendary driver in the history of F1. Helmut Marko.
What? Whoa.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, same here. Wow,
Yeah.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I'm shocked. Wow.
Marko said that. Yeah.
Wow. Man, geez, it makes me wonder.
I'm gonna have to process that. I don't know. I don't know where to go with it right now with that statement, but okay.
Yeah.
We're gonna circle around to Lewis in a second. We're gonna circle back to him, but let me flip it to Ray for a second about McLaren failing Oscar. What are your thoughts?
So I want to just throw this in there, right? Because if you guys recall, we had the NASCAR format jump in there where Pirelli said, "Yo, our tires ain't gonna live long. We got to stop at this amount," and FIA said, "Yep, we're gonna throw that in there," right? So that just adding context to the weekend that there's going to be a mandatory pit stop, right? But turning back to what transpired, because Oscar, he rocked it in qualifying, rocked it in the sprint race, and McLaren. All right. Shit. Are we going to come back to McLaren again? Because I might have some stuff I need to just drop.
Go ahead. Just go.
Okay,
Roll.
Okay. So, all right. So check it out. So McLaren, Oscar gave it his all, right? However, I think Oscar is not McLaren's favorite guy. I'm just going to put it out there. I get that feeling because there was a comment from one of the commentators that I can't remember who it was, but said that during the process of the stuff and when to him it seemed like they didn't the guys that said the mechanics does not cheer as much as for Oscar as they do for Lando. Right? I can't remember. I have to try and remember. I think I heard a comment like that, and that's something I kind of goes in line with what I'm saying, that he is really viewed as a second guy as opposed to Lando being the first guy. So again, they did, even though the pit team did their job on, he had a 1.8 second, can you believe that? A 1.8 second pit stop, right? But they're not gelling because then the strategy team threw them out the window, right? Because when they had the safety car from Hulkenberg, right? The accident there on 7, I think it's 7 or 8, they didn't take the opportunity to bring him in and swap him out to get one of the, to get the mandatory tire change out the way then, right? And it seemed like everybody else did. and that put them back on the back foot, right? Because it takes longer to go through the pit on the green than it did onto that, and that's a strategy call. And I've even heard from Zach said, "Oh well, we stuck with what we were doing," but that's almost like a Ferrari fumble. You got to be flexible on your feet, right? Because again, Max and Red Bull are the juggernauts. You follow what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. They're the juggernauts, and they are coming and they're saying, "Yo, what's going on?" Because even, I don't know if we're blending here, but it kind of goes in tune with it. Max was making fun of McLaren and said they don't know how to make decisions, but basically in a basic format, right? It wasn't that simple, but basically he said they screwed up on what they're doing. So, I'm feeling it for McLaren because, again, I'm going to say this: if they fumble the ball, they're going to look awfully bad. Choose my words right. If they lose this after having it.
Well, I'll say this: if they will look silly, to say it mildly. If they mess this up, but it won't be the first time. And it wouldn't be the first time for McLaren as a team. And it wouldn't be the first time that it's happened in Formula One to a team that doesn't have a clear number one driver that they back. Right. And I'll just say that's where this issue stems from. You would have thought they would have had them, whether you're racing up to the middle of the season or 3/4 of the season, whoever is ahead at that point, we are going to back that person going forward for if the championship is in play to try to secure the drivers and the constructors championship. Because they didn't do that and they want to do this wishy-washiness, they didn't pull Lando in. Well, they should have pulled them both in and stacked Lando, but I guess they didn't want to jeopardize his race, right? And then they could have pulled in Lando and left Oscar out, which would have been wrong. The lead car should get preference. So I'll just say, McLaren's throwing it away. Max is rightfully poking them because they are. Because even though he's in a team of one, Max, because Yuki is not there to support like Checo used to when he was battling Lewis. Max is doing all right on his own. He's going after his championship. And I remember listening to one of the post-race interviews, and Juan Pablo, who's one of my favorite drivers when I used to watch him when he was at Williams, said that that Max is not benefiting from having Yuki out there, another car to help him. And I thought to myself, I said, well, McLaren's not benefiting either, because they're basically two separate teams the way they're operating. Anyway, I'll throw it to you, Anthony. Your thoughts?
Well, I just want to say I want to thank McLaren for that quick pit stop, because that won me $200 on Prize Picks. So I was glad for that. But I don't know. It just goes back to what we said last week. Everything just seems so, really now this is happening? It's just, I don't know, man. It's just very, very suspect to me.
It could be. Again, I listen, Ray touched on it. I'll say, listen, we've all been out in the workforce. We know what it's like to be working with someone and either be the favored employee or witness the favored employee getting away with whatever. We're humans. It's going to happen. I'm sure it happens in Formula One all the time. In that arena, performance matters. But then again, you have to kind of put it with quotes, because it's like, do you have the equal equipment, right? But from what I've seen, for the most part, over the years I've been watching it, is you have to be aggressive. You have to be ruthless. You have to fight for yourself. And if you do that, then you can stand to get, the better treatment of the better things. Yeah. Where teams break down, which is what I think we're seeing here, you have two drivers capable of winning. They're both number one drivers. And it seems that the recipe that works best is to have a clear number one and one that's just is a number two, and preferably one that is really a number two that you could say. Yeah. I'll say this. and I think as a number 2, this driver has to step his game up. Aston Martin, Fernando's clearly the number 1. Clearly, if they have a competitive car next year, that's their guy. However, Lance may be, and I don't mean this to say, well, I won't say it that way. Lance needs to step his game up to be that clear number 2. He'll never be number 1.
No.
Right? Especially up against Fernando. That recipe works. Like I said in Red Bull with Max and Checo, where Checo could block when he was blocking, when he was battling with Lewis. That's what you want. When you have 2 number 1s, downfall.
Well, when your seat, well, I won't go there about Liz. I won't go there about Stroll. But you already knew where I was going with that.
Oh, yes.
But I think you're right. And somebody made a quote a few years ago. Somebody said, well, Lewis is too arrogant or Max is too arrogant. And I can't think of who the old driver was, said, well, if an F1 driver isn't arrogant, they shouldn't be out there driving.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Mm-hmm. They shouldn't be out there driving because you have to be arrogant. Like you said, you have to have that edge. You have to have that grittiness to you in order to be out there, period.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ray, your thoughts?
Well, I agree with what you just said. And I've realized that, there will always be people that have comments, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it is what it is for the environment. But, I just found it interesting. I can't remember the commentator, but that brought that out to light because nobody, I think when he said that, the other commentators that were around him didn't even pick up on the topic. It came in and it went. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's just like, whoa, did he, he stepped over the line? Are they going to get punished if they really speak their mind where, was obvious? Right. So, again, yeah, McLaren, threw him out to out the door. Basically.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is over the season there have been missteps by Oscar. There have been missteps by Lando. This is clearly on the team. Zach came out and said it. He took it. Yep, we messed up, but I think it stems from the fact, again, like you need to stand behind somebody. So now here's the question. And are they now going to come out for Abu Dhabi to say that Oscar has to back Lando now because you're going to change it at the end? I mean, I could see it would make sense if you were trying to win because, again, you cannot fumble or play around with Max, right? And Max could win it if they mess this up, or if Lando is not in top form because he needs to finish at least 3rd. Max can win. He could finish 3rd and he can win it. But if he comes out and he's kind of lost in his mind again, Max is won. And if Max wins it, he deserves it. Go ahead, Anthony. I know you. Go ahead.
Yeah, you weren't. I don't think you were last week when I said that Max tends to, in some races, he'll have it in his pocket. He's good. He's having it in his pocket, but then he does those frustrated Max mistakes where he gets just frustrated and overreacts and makes just a simple mistake and throws it all away.
You mean Max?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna.
He hasn't done it lately. He hasn't done it lately.
Yeah,
but in the past,
of the three, Lando is, I think, the more of the offender of, maybe sometimes misstepping when he shouldn't. Oscar's there. Max is the least. That's a world champion. Listen, like I said, I don't have any Red Bull memorabilia, paraphernalia, anything like that, but I respect the man's craft, right? I respect him. I respect his craft. Max, it's so few and far between that even if he does or when he does put a foot wrong, it's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry. That's a world champion, don't worry about it, and that's where they need to be. Like Oscar's period where he got boggy in the last few races, that's a question mark. We don't know what that caused that. But from what I could see of the world champions that I've watched come up and win, yeah, they're consistent. That's so consistent. And if they misstep, don't worry about it, man.
It's all good.
Yeah, it's all good. So anyway, so saying that Max keeps maximizing. I mean,
unfortunately,
I mean, okay, the double DQ in the last race that hurt McLaren, right? That hurt them both. But again, that happened. We don't know. Hey, we could get there next week, and an engine can let go. That points the finger back to McLaren, where this is a points race. You can't throw away points. You can't, you have to stand behind your guy and back those points, because when you get to times like this, you're going to lose it over what? How many points that you threw away when can you give Lando back the place, or can you,
yeah.
Anyway, but your thoughts on Max's driving. Ray, I'll flip it to you first.
Well, as Rich Tuning says, right, Max doesn't make mistakes. And that's why I called him Max and Red Bull. That's why I call them the juggernaut, right? Because they are like a well-oiled machine, and they are moving forward, right? And yeah, that's, again, I'm not a Red Bull nor Max fan, but again, I'm big enough to say talent is talent, right? And he is grabbing that, he keeps saying that the car is not the best and all this other stuff. Okay, it could be because he's accustomed to running away with stuff. Now he's in the mix and but he stepped up to that game, and he is still pulling ahead of these guys. And these other guys are, if they're not solid on their day, he shows you, I'm going to walk and take it from you, right? And so that's, that is what they have to play with. And that's, again, yeah, don't. I said it last week. Don't sleep on Max and Red Bull, because they'll walk in and take that show. And I'm going to say it again. I said it before. I say it again. McLaren's going to look awfully dumb if they make this happen, regardless of the fact it's history or whatever. They're going to look awfully dumb, because they'll go in one of the statistic column that, of one of the teams that had it and then threw it away and lost to Red Bull. So, that they have to come with something. I'll say that the pit guys were on par today, right? Because a 1.8 second pit stop. Man, I don't believe that clock is real. But the guys that were doing the strategy, they dropped it. Everybody's got to show up and running. And then, as you said, with Oscar now, what's going to be the deal, right? If Oscar has an opportunity to win, are they going to say, well, you got to be at this corner first before we let you go? Or, if something comes up with Lando and he's not able to capitalize, are they going to be flexible in the middle of the race and say, yo, we're going to flip this. Yo, Oscar, go do this, right? Because still, I want to think that even if Oscar were to, to win, there's positions there for people to get, unless, to allow them to still hold their championship points for Lando to show up. So Lando's got to find a buddy like Seitz or to talk to the Mercedes boys, right? Because to see if they will go out there and go for the win, right? And then he can fight with Max and push it back again. So, but again, it's down to, yes, as Zach said, they messed up, but they're going to have to sit down and really work this out.
Yeah. Anthony?
I wholeheartedly agree. Like I said, Max isn't my favorite driver by any shot at all, period. But you got to respect his crap. The guy's an outstanding driver. I mean, he's when he first came into F1, it was like, oh, he's a wild guy, blah blah blah. But he's just gotten better and better and better and better and better and better. So I mean, you can't take away from his crap. I mean, he's an ace. He's like a fighter pilot. He's an ace.
Yep. I always say Max is like a great white shark trolling out there. Don't let him sniff blood. He's coming, and that's what he's done. That's what he's done. But having said that, we want to give Williams their flowers. The Williams surprise finish. Carlos. I was happy for Carlos. I like his teammate Alex as well, but I was very happy for Carlos, especially how Ferrari released him, fired him, let him go, whatever way you want to put it. And then he went to Williams, and it looks like he's really starting to step into it now. hopefully next year's car is good as well. But I was really happy for him to cover that and get that third place. And the way he was monitoring during the race to know, we could do this, guys. We could do this. Anyway, I'll throw it to you, Ray. What are your thoughts?
Well, it comes back to say that what I've said before, I'm going to say it again like a broken record, is that if there are good drivers on that grid that if given the right equipment, you'll see where they perform, right? Mm-hmm. And that is basically it, right? It's very dependent on the manufacturing process of the vehicle that they bring to race, and I think the FIA needs to do more to kind of cut down on that. And yes, I understand they want to, show that they're innovative, but still there's got to be other ways, right? Because again, Williams got their stuff together, right, this go around, and he was able to show what he's good at. And yes, I agree with you. I was surprised when he's calling back. He was calling strategy from the cockpit, right? He was calling strategy from the cockpit. The only person I've seen, who's that? Alonso do that, right? Right, in his own way. Shut up, let me drive. Yep. But he was calling strategy. Okay. And so it shows you the quality and the ability that he has. So, again, if I'm glad for the team, and I'm glad for Carlos for showing up, right? Because according to James Vowles, they said they're changing processes, and they say that he's trying to implement things that he learned that were while he was at Mercedes to to lift it up. So I'm happy for them for that, and I'm happy for Carlos, because if you notice when the ceremony went off for the winners, a lot of people sprayed Carlos. Both guys sprayed Carlos, not each other. Yeah. Right. And they only sprayed McLaren and Verstappen sprayed his strategist. Right. So right. But there was no spray between Oscar and and Verstappen. So right. So again, and I feel for Oscar, man, because it's just like he got gutted. He got gutted on this one because he came on the field and he was good to go from all the time, and then to turn around and then have the major fumble, man, it hurts.
Anthony, I'll let you go before I say something.
It goes back to speaking of the field. It goes back to an old football saying: "Any given Sunday, any given Sunday." Or like my dad used to say, "Son," he said, "Boy, the sun shine on a dog, but every once in a while." I mean, any given Sunday, anything can happen. That one driver who you think, oh, he's not going to think, can find that niche and just he's gone. That's it. Yeah.
Well, I'll say this part about them spraying it on Carlos. That's to be expected. I mean, yes, they're happy for him, that he's coming up, and that's good, but he's not a threat.
True.
So they'll spray. Listen, you in a gladiators arena in F1. So yeah, that's why Oscar and Max are not going to spray it for each other, because they're competing, against each other. They want that top step. So, but yeah, I was very surprised. I mean, I have confidence that it'll be like how it is with McLaren. McLaren is a team that has won many times. Williams, the history of Williams F1 team, they're the wins they've had. So it's a rebuilding phase, like James Vowles is trying to bring that team back up. It's a shame that Claire Williams couldn't, but it's okay. I think I'll speak positive that when he does it, I know she'll be happy as well. So okay, moving on, then we have the race results, and just going through there, I'm gonna bring it in for Anthony right now when we're looking there. There's an absence of a name of someone we all like. There's no Lewis on this top 10.
No, there's not.
No Lewis, and you have Charles held it on and brought it home in 8th place, but Lewis is, I don't know. I don't know. It's sad what's going on there, and what you just said. I'm gonna have to think on that one, Anthony. I don't know.
I'd like to jump in on the Lewis thing here.
Go ahead.
Again, I enjoyed Juan Pablo being part of the commentary crew this go around, because he said in a post race commentary that that Ferrari is too entrenched in their ways to realize that they may need to change how they do things. And that's me putting it nicely. And what I found interesting is that when he made that comment, again, none of the other commentators that were next to him picked up on that. So, you know, that topic, they just let it lie, but they speak facts, you know, because I remember, what was it? Peter Windsor on one of his commentaries saying that the race engineer was telling Lewis how to drive the car. Right. And he told Lewis was doing stuff, you know, like in 7th gear or whatever. And race engineer said, oh, you know, you need to be in 6th gear to do it. And sure enough, he ended up being slower. Right. So again, you know, so they need to, you know, they have a little chip on their shoulder. They need to come down to earth because they, you know, they themselves are becoming the problem because they have vehicles and drivers that can compete. But, you know, for whatever reason, that little chip keep getting in the way.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, well, I'm saying, you know, a 7-time should be 8-time world champion. You tell him how to drive what gear to be in to take a corner. That's insulting from my perspective.
Yeah.
Right. Because it says that you're not in communication with a car. You're not knowledgeable to know what type of car they have. They have anyway. I'll stop. I'm done.
Well, I'll just sum it up this way. I mean, I know I've said it in past episodes. Like that's when Michael came and he was able to build a team around him. Lewis stepped into a team that's already, like you said, entrenched, and they're entrenched in their ways. We don't know how the inner workings are there, but what we can clearly see is that Lewis and his race engineer, that relationship is not gelling, right? So that's a start. So if that's an indication, then you know that it's all hell breaking loose beyond that, you know, like, and I can't say the words. I don't even remember who said it way back in the 90s, but this person that said it. It was a media person, and they said the problem with Ferrari is that there's too much, and that's as far as I'm going to go with that. And Michael came in and brought people in from everywhere, but qualified people, good people. Not to say that the people at Ferrari aren't, but I don't know. There's clearly a problem, and I think Lewis may have went in there with that hope that he could help build a team, but maybe he sees how fractured it is, and it's beyond him. If he doesn't have support. So, Anthony, you want to?
Yeah, I agree. In that it's disrespect when a race engineer to try to tell him how to drive the car. I mean, it's like you don't believe in this guy's skill set, or you don't believe in the skill set of a person who has proven their skill set, so to say. You know, this guy, like you said, 7-time should be I would say he's an 8-time world champion. He's an 8-time world champion. I'm going to go and say it, but you're trying to tell him how to drive the car or how to operate the vehicle. Come on, man. You know, obviously you see it's not working. It hasn't worked through all these races. You know, they're steadily bumping heads. So Fred and his crew needs to look at that and be like, okay, wait a minute. Let's see how we can address this, because it's obviously not working.
Yeah, well, it may be something that can't be addressed in a season, or even 2 or 3, you know, or 4. So, you know, they didn't get Adrian Newey. That would have been a great win for them as far as the aerodynamics of the car. You know, Ferrari engines are good, and then you could have went there. But hey, you know, but okay. I just wanted to touch on Lewis for a second with that. But moving into the driver's standings. So as we see it here, I mean, Lando's still in the lead. Max is closed in even more. Poor Oscar. I feel it for him. I think, and you know, someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I think pretty much the only way Oscar could get is if, let's say, Max and Lando took each other out. Then you know, he would, and he won. Or even if they took each other out, then it didn't really matter as long as he finished in the points so high enough. But if he won it, then he'd be good. He'd be able to clinch. He'd have to win it to do it. But Lando only has to finish 3rd. But again, we don't know which Lando is showing up next week. We know which Max is showing up next week, but we don't know which Lando is showing up next week. And then we got to add on that, which McLaren is showing up next week. So those are the big question marks right there. But I don't know. Any thoughts, guys?
I agree.
Yep, same here. I agree with that. Yep, you said it all in one nutshell there. Those are the facts. I agree.
Yeah. And then moving to the constructors, I mean, looking at it here, you have poor Max trying to do it himself. Mercedes is secure with their second place right there. I mean, they have their 2 drivers finishing. Max is trying to do what he can, but I think it's pretty much a given that Mercedes, they, if they have a 1-2 in the points again, they got it. They have it locked from there. But other than that, I don't know. So I'm excited in the sense of I want to tune in next week and see what happens. Does McLaren throw it away, or do they finally win it? And that's it. Any closing thoughts, guys, before we wrap?
No, well, for me, it's just, let's wait and see, because I will say that the wind is out my sail, and to see what they did with Oscar and, the big fumble, right? Because I think, Oscar has the talent to do what it is, to take it. But I think, what happened after in a midseason there, I'm not sure what happened, because did they make a change in the car that he wasn't really, in tune with? Mm-hmm. Or was it like a Checo thing where they're trying to tell him how to drive the car, whatever? Mm-hmm. But, it was good to see Oscar show back up again, right?
Right.
And then for the strategy side of the house, the fumble, come on, man. That's there's a world championship, because I'll say this. We don't know what we're getting next year as far as the cars. It's a whole new sheet. Mm-hmm. So whomever gets close to what they're doing, that's the one that's going to shine. So, these guys, if they know the beast they're riding right now, and they want to maximize their results with that beast, because come next year, it could be like a Mercedes again, a multi-year try to development, right, to get there, right? So you're going to sit through all of that. And, and that makes me concerned for Lewis, because Lewis needs to get that 8, right? So that, he can complete it. He really needs to get his 9 and 10, but, but he needs to get that. And, for people that say he's gone, I beg to differ, because he can, when given a vehicle that he can operate, he operates. He doesn't sit back, right? And I think right now, going back to what Anthony says in the beginning, I think the win is out of his sail. I think that he's looking at this at the end of the season. I'm going to have to own the statistic, because, a conspiracist can say, or someone could say that, maybe the team is setting you up for that one. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not owning it, but somebody might say that. No. But I think he's just, I think he's kind of, why push a dead horse? That's kind of the way I look at it, right? And so we'll see what next weekend comes, if he can do anything, because then again, if reflecting on what you said with Schumacher, the internals of Ferrari had to be ready for them to adapt the changes that Schumacher was bringing. Yeah. Current Ferrari is not ready to adapt, because Lewis generated a document with his observations, and they just like file 13 that. For those that don't know, it goes in the trash. Yeah. So again, they have to be ready to be open to say, hey, these are areas that we need to look at in order to, get it. And so we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. Well, on that note, we'll join us next week for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Again, we'll be coming to you at 7 p.m. Eastern. If you want to participate, and again, remember to like, share, and subscribe to stay up to date on all things the fellas. See you next week, everyone.